Huh. Looks like it's live. And microphone. Yeah, I did it again. I just keep doing it. Oh, that was that was impolite. Sorry. That probably left a mark. Such. Anyway, yeah, just thought I'd do a live room, sort of long day, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, need something to really fucking irritate me to finish off the horror and the nonsense. Yeah. So anyway, if somebody would like to participate in the room, then ask for the link in the comment section. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So anyway, so I guess we'll do some talk first about the idea of a prospect of a debate with one of these, whatever, these people. Okay. Ken or even this, I'm just, these, there's so many people out there doing this alternative science. I don't know what you want to call it. I mean, I don't know what else to call it. And, but yeah, they really seem to be all afraid of any face to face interactions, any kind of confrontation where they have to actually defend the crap they say. And, it is, I find that, you know, disturbing, but I find everything about people disturbing. It's just, why am I expecting humans to be anything else but creepy fucks? Realistically, they're just manipulating, game playing, creepy, shitty creatures, generally speaking. Just seems like that's all there is. All right, anyway. I just thought I'd throw in, on the Miles Mathis thing. I guess, I might do another video on that subject just because I don't know what people are going to do if they're going to, if somebody else is going to make some video on this propaganda. But Miles Mathis actually thinks that the space program has secretly changed pi to 4, because somehow their orbits don't work out if they use their Newtonian physics. And so he really does think that things slow down when they go into orbits in space. So he thinks it works the same way as a racetrack on the ground, that the same mechanisms are at play. And it just shows he has he's just an idiot. Just because apparently in the early days of the space program, right, this is how he defends this nonsense. They overshot orbits a few times. And they blamed the fact that, propulsion was always kind of fudgy. And the fact that Miles Mathis can't even understand that, it's a little hard, especially if they don't have the best gyroscopes in the world to calculate exactly how fast you're going and all this kind of stuff, to be able to predict how much resistance there's going to be to you getting into space. I mean, obviously, clear day, cloudy day, going to make a huge difference to how easy it is for you to get your rocket into space, how much thrust you're going to have to use to overcome not only gravity, but obviously the resistance of the atmosphere. And anyway, it's just, these are just obvious counter arguments to his bullshit. And it's just that, it's just bullshit. So anyway, so Ken has again stated his willingness to do this debate thing, but it just doesn't look like it's going to happen in a way. I just, the whole thing is quite strange. So I'll show you my view from this channel of his video. And it's just kind of bizarre because there's really no, YouTube does suck. So it's likely this is YouTube's doing most of this. Maybe the whole screen would be the best view. Then I suppose we can both be in the game then. So we'll do that. Move that over maybe. All right. So this is Ken's video. I'll play some of it just because his rhetoric is just so freaking insane. So it says 105 comments. Well, on this page, there's maybe 20. and there's no more button. So that's it. So only 20 comments or so are being shown on this page. 25, let's say. So there's 75 of the comments at least are missing. And I posted a comment from the Inmendum channel, basically doing the same thing as this. There's a comment here from DraftScience, right here at the top. So this is how YouTube does this game they play. So from the Inmendum channel, I see the Inmendum comment. From the DraftScience channel, I see the DraftScience comment at the top. Obviously, that's not where I see it from the other two channels. So from the DraftScience channel, there's no Inmendum comment. And when I'm on the Inmendum channel, there's no DraftScience comment. So apparently these comments are invisible to everybody except me. Okay, so that's a YouTube game. What the hell is that shit? So yes, maybe it's in the spam folder and I'm not even told that my comment's in the spam folder. It's just, they just let me have the delusion that I actually posted a public comment when apparently I didn't post a public comment. I mean, quite obviously, I don't have my DraftScience channel blocked, and I don't have my Inmendum channel blocked. So there's no reason for this, whatever this is, this bullshit. There's no way to, there's no good here for any. I mean, I don't, whether Ken is leaving things in the spam folder or what the story is, but yeah, this isn't any kind of way to run a railroad. Like I said, I don't know what part of it's YouTube's fault, but I mean, I guess the obvious part that's YouTube's fault is the idea that they would put my comment on the top of the list when obviously it's not on any list. It hasn't been in any way posted, and here they're showing it as if it's a posted comment, and it's not. So just let me know if you can see my comment on that video, because I can't see it from either channel. Inmendum, both of them are very similar. I just say I would request the opportunity to be given a chance to participate in the open debate. So that's what both the comments basically say. So no, I mean, they're very polite comments. No bullshit. So anyway, it just seems like it's a game here. I don't know who's playing it, but there's definitely a game. Oh, okay, yeah, the screen share doesn't really work because it's just showing. Yeah, that's right. I can't show my video. I thought it was doing it was doing the whole screen, but it can't do the whole screen because then it turns into the little screen. So yeah, there's no point in doing a screen share with the camera still in because the camera won't show. So screw that. We'll just do the Ken video. And I guess I could zoom in, but you really don't need this superfluous stuff on the other side over here. So let me do some control plussing or whatever it is you do in Firefox. You said used to work. Oh, wrong one. Yeah, I think it was the wrong window. Okay, that was getting bigger. Oops, got smaller again. Well, they really don't give you much zooming option here. Kind of lame. So I suppose I could just change the window size, and that should fix some of this problem. Squeeze it out of the game. The other bullshit's still showing. Interesting. You can't really fix that. I guess you could just go to this widescreen shit, but I don't know if theater mode. See how that does. I guess that'll work. So we'll just go with theater mode. How fascinating. Anyway, so let me see make sure my video's functioning properly. About. That's the wrong. Ephelism index. Oh, okay, that's some other damn shit stuff. I mean, garbage. I mean, crap. All right. So there we go. All right. Let's see. Is this asshole cannot see the Inmendum, the DraftScience comment for what it's worth. Yeah. So I just, this is, I mean, it's a YouTube thing, but I just find this really irritating. I can't get rid of trolls off my own damn videos. People just talking absolute dirty, stinking crap. And yet, you want to post an honest comment, you can't get it done. and you don't even get to know why your comment isn't posting. You don't even get to know it's not posting. I mean, they don't give you any indication. No, your comment's totally invisible, and it was like you never posted it. I mean, that's just, again, that's not a feature. That's Google being fucking evil. There's no other, you can't find another rationalization for that. That's just Google being motherfucking cunt evil. People ought to just admit it's an evil fucking company. Playing evil games. Why would they fuck with comments in this way? They obviously have some sort of shit agenda. All right, anyway. So let's play some of this crap.
Let's have a discussion about light. And by the way, this video is dedicated to all the people on internet forum boards, the knuckle-dragging mouth breathers, the pseudo-intellectual mental midgets who like to throw spitballs. Have you ever seen like a prize boxer fight? There's always like these big boxers in the ring beating each other up. And there are these little pipsqueaks sitting in the shadows back in the bleachers. And what they'll do is they'll throw spit like, yeah, I'd knock him out if I were in there. You know, they're little scrawny guys.
Right. Just another long analogy or whatever that doesn't really seem quite to say it, does it? I mean, it just doesn't quite fit. And then what he's going to say now is hilarious.
They're all talk, all fluff, and no substance. These are the people that always like to hurl insults.
I mean, this is a hilarious comment coming from a guy who just spends this entire video hurling insults. No counter argument besides, you're an imbecile if you don't see it my way. If you don't understand everything exactly how I understand it, you're an idiot. You're a fucktard. You're nuts. You're crazy. You're insane. You're a knuckle dragger. You're brain dead. You're brain smushed. You're neurally deficient. It's just insane.
And if an insult is valid, then that's fine. It's like,
well, none of these insults are valid. You're obviously not demonstrating how Einstein is an evil, insane lunatic. You're not proving any of this stuff with anything. And again, if you're really going to start analyzing it, I mean, some of the wacky crap your heroes have said in the past, I mean, shit.
This person is wrong. This is what they said, and this is why they're wrong. Fact A, B, C, X, Y, D.
Yeah, X, Y, D. A, B, C, X, Y, D. Well, that, again, not exactly. Not exactly. You didn't really make the point very well there because there is no X, Y, D.
But they never have anything. And this is what makes them so unintelligent.
Yeah, whatever. They never have anything. Again, you know, what do you bring that they're not bringing? I mean, if you're going to make a balanced argument, you're not drawing a picture, you're not showing an animation, you're not doing anything in any real way to make anything you're talking about at all understandable, and yet you'll sit there and talk this, just totally excessive. I mean, it's just so way, you can't even describe how over the top it is. It's so fucking over the top. It's not over the rainbow, it's over the fucking galaxy.
What about the nature of light? First, let's discuss something. All of this electricity, which is eliminating my fat, ugly face, what does it have in common? The people that made it possible, Nikola Tesla.
Whatever. Nikola Tesla did not invent electricity. Not even close. He made modifications, improvements to existing technologies. Obviously, Thomas Edison had already figured out how to make electricity when he was making the light bulb. Okay, I mean, obviously.
James Clerk Maxwell, Oliver Heaviside.
Again, Maxwell's equations didn't create electricity.
Charles Proteus Steinmetz, especially so. They all had one.
Well, again, you say especially so, and again, Steinmetz was involved in just the fact that in high voltage transmission of electricity, and obviously there was different ways to transmit electricity. And you may argue that you think they chose the right one, but I'm not exactly confident that they did in the end, but whatever.
thing in common. They believed that the particle fantasy nonsense of atomism, that light was in any way, shape, or form a particle, the arbitrary concept of the photon has absolutely zero basis in reality.
Right. So again, we understand its history. It's obviously doesn't have it's zero base. There's a rational reason. Now you want to deny the fact that there's any evidence. Okay, well the fact is that waves spread and photons don't. Um, there's then there's the whole inverse square thing, which kind of has to do with particles, and particles will duplicate that effect quite completely. I mean, just quite adequately in the sense of their divergence, and they're discrete. They land in clumps, as Feynman would say. Now, the fact that they do land in a clump, that you can't make a half a photon. It's a discrete quanta, and it either at some point you either have a photon or you have no photon, and that they're always multiples. So you have two photons or three photons, but you never have three and a half photons. That's a reason to think they're discrete clumps.
Absolutely zero. There is one thing that is absolutely certain, too, by the way. Mother Nature does not deal in dualities. There is no such thing as a wave particle duality.
I would agree, but obviously we completely disagree on what part of the duality is broken, and I would argue that the silly wave nonsense is silly wave nonsense. And that the truth is the universe is very simple. If you're going to make a universe, what's the simplest thing to make? Well, you make a rock. Okay, you make a little clump of something, and then you can give it some properties. Okay, well, one of the properties will be it moves the speed of light. And then we can give it one more property. We can say it's polarized. Okay, now with those three little properties, it exists in the sense that it's always rock. It's the same size in a sense. It goes the speed of light in a straight line, and it has polarization. Now, that if I'm going to say that Mother Nature is, not a nuclear physicist, Mother Nature isn't a brain surgeon. Uh, Mother Nature likes things simple. Well, that's about as simple as you can get. You want to create some complex ether that perturbates as if things are discrete particles. It makes them look like they're particles, okay? And yet it's just some sort of thing waving. And then when it stops waving, when it gets to matter, it what? The ether changes, it gets thick or something. What's the transition between the ether and the matter? How is that manifest? And if you're going to argue they're both ether, well, then I think you're talking about something kind of complex. I mean, if the ether itself can manifest into two conditions of what looks like the vacuum of space and a dense material object, well, that sounds like pretty complex ether. I don't think you're going to buy a box of Betty Crocker swirly cake that's going to be able to manifest those two extremes.
There is only the misunderstanding and miscomprehension of stupid, dumb, human, two-legged creatures.
Right. So everybody who disagrees with you is stupid. Not because you have some evidence that they are unreasonable or irrational, not that you've in any way illustrated how it's nonsensical. Here's the evidence. I mean, it's just so obvious that cat shit stinks. Every poll has been 95% or above have confirmed that cat shit is what we call stink. No, you're not doing anything like that. You're not making this argument as if this is an obvious truth and you have the proof and you have demonstrated the evidence and it's just so fucking obvious. You've done none of this to justify this rhetoric. It's just fucking, you're just a propagandist for your own ego.
Okay? I get attacked a lot when it comes to describing light, but these are only based upon the theories of the greatest minds who ever lived that gave us all up.
Right. Okay. So we're just saying that this is obviously his religion. These are his popes. Tesla, the guy trying to make a death ray. um, Heavy side, I don't remember what he did. Um, Maxwell, who was an ether nut and came up with the three equations that basically talked about the fields of electricity. And in part, though, is also responsible for kind of breaking physics in the sense of making light, okay, into um, an electromagnetic thing when it itself doesn't display any electrical or magnetic properties whatsoever. Yeah, I mean, it can only do something electrical or magnetic when it hits an electron. It can't do it on its own, ever.
Of electrical theory. Einstein didn't invent anything. He was not either intelligent nor wise, nor was he an inventor. And he certainly knew nothing about electrical theory specifically.
Well, to say he wasn't an inventor, I mean, obviously, when you compose a theory or an equation, you're essentially inventing it. You are, I mean, it just seems like a semantics to deny that he has created in no less a real form as any other invention.
Even Thomas Edison said that Einstein was a fool for not knowing the rate at which sound propagates through the air.
Yeah, I don't know the context of that, but I guess obviously Einstein was a physicist, not a chemist, and yeah, I guess his focus was on physics and not brute force of how crap moves around in an atmosphere.
Thomas Edison, who himself was not all that incredibly intelligent, well, he did have a lot of inventions. Nikola Tesla made fun of Edison for stabbing in the dark so many times to create a light bulb.
Right, he made fun of the very process that actually got the job done. Where everybody else was failing, Edison succeeded. And I think Edison's retort to that, which is, invention is, 10% inspiration and 90% perspiration. Yeah. Put that in your bubble pipe and blow.
He didn't actually create the light bulb, nor did he create a lot of other things that he's.
Well, again, he didn't create the talking machine. He didn't make movies. He didn't do this. He didn't. There's no evidence that he didn't do it. And especially the light bulb. There's every evidence that he said publicly this can get done, and he almost went bankrupt trying to get it done. Spent years focused on the one ambition, and you want to say he didn't do it. Oh, okay. That sounds a little petty to me, buddy.
Credited for. So what about light? According to the premise of now, light is strictly electromagnetic wave propagation, correct? Well,
no. But again, the standard model, the one physics, the whole quantum mechanics wave theory, again, they've used this duality because they're stuck with a mechanism that they can't unify. Okay, I mean, bent space isn't going to work with fields. And like when I turn on a light bulb, I could argue there's now a field of photons. Okay, now in practical fact, it's really not. Okay, a field of photons. It's really not a bunch of things that are now new things traveling. What the light bulb is doing is converting things that weren't of a specific polarization to a specific polarization and then releasing them at a specific frequency. So these are things that would be moving through the universe in straight line paths anyway. It's just giving them color, so to speak. It's giving them something to wear, polarization, that now they can have an effect on matter. Matter is affected by polarized force. So in a sense, the field is always there, in a sense, but it's not dead ether. It's active, moving at the speed of light, things, and those things change depending on their polarization. And I mean change in the sense that they are detectable or invisible based on polarization. One polarization, you won't see any light. Another polarization, you will see the light. And with light, there's also the frequency thing. So if it's not polarized, you won't see it. The individual rays of light have to be polarized. They can have different polarizations, but the individual rays have to be polarized.
Electromagnetism is not merely transverse electrical magnetic. It obviously has a longitudinal pulse perturbation, and that is the
All right, so what he's saying there is, from what I can gather from watching way too many of these nonsensical videos, is he's talking about the sine wave of the electrical component, the sine wave of the magnetic being perpendicular to each other. And what he's arguing is the 0 points where those two waves collapse to nothing. He's calling that the ton. So that to him is the ton. Now, part of the problem with that is he ends up with too many tons because it's not a complete wave. In a complete sine wave, there's more tons than represented in the action of light. But anyway, you can't cut them off at those points. You have to do it at the sine wave, complete sine wave points to have an actual ton.
Premise for the notion of a photon particle is this pulse perturbation that actually increases at the rate at which frequency increases also. E equals HF.
So again, he's making this argument that intensity is a function of frequency when technically that's only true if your time interval means that you have the light completely on for the same amount of time. So if you have an ultraviolet light bulb and you have an infrared light bulb and you turn them both on, okay, at the same wattage for the same period of time, then yes, you'll get more tons out of the blue light than you'll get out of the red light. But that doesn't mean anything. That just means that the tons are closer together. So obviously if you fire bullets every half a second and then you have another gun and you fire them every 1 second, it's not that the bullets are less bullety. It's that you're firing less bullets in the time allowed. Yeah, not complicated.
Energy equals Planck's constant times the frequency of light. Let's read off the premise, and this is what humanity will look back upon if we evolve intellectually any further and go, wow, we really believed in some really stupid, crazy bullshit back then. Every branch of science always does that. 50, 60.
Yeah, right. That's another one of these cliche things. They're not going to undo the round Earth. I mean, there's people trying, but they're not going to do it. They're not going to undo the discovery of the microbe. Okay, they're not going to find some other cause of AIDS besides the AIDS virus. So, you can keep pretending that there's all these, we're fooled by something, that we don't know what oil is made out of dead, prehistoric vegetation. We don't know, that saber-toothed tigers used to roam North America. Yeah, we do know that. Saber-toothed lions, anyway.
Years later, they always look back at science 50, 60 years before them like, man, they really believed in some crazy crap back then. The same thing will be true regarding the nature of light, because
well, again, it depends on what nature you're talking about. So what's not going to change is the fact that they have identified the fact that light does interact with electrons, and they have a lot of the quantum electrodynamics in terms of the equations that create that recognize the conservation and explain the exchanges of acceleration and momentum and energy. So they have properly identified that stuff goes in, stuff comes out, stuff happens in between semi-correctly. Obviously, in my opinion, yes, what they've gotten wrong is thinking that somehow the photons are making the substantial contribution to this activity when it's the electrons and the protons that are making the substantial contribution.
Nothing other than a field perturbation. There's certainly no particle involved. If you think that photons are hitting the sensor in the back of your camera, You're a sick, delusional person. Has been
Right. So you're sick and delusional if you believe that photons are quanta. Now, particle is a tricky word. I mean, I'm just saying it's an indivisible one mass unit. So again, I'll make this argument again that it's kind of obvious when you, I mean, I'm just saying when you think about it. Okay, if I tell you that, okay, think about a photon as a discrete piece of energy, what's its reality? Well, its reality is it's moving a absolute in terms of the universe's speed. And in a sense, it doesn't have any tangential or perpendicular dimensions. It has mass in one dimension. You can't you can't touch one, okay, from the side. You can't interact with one from the side. You can't do anything to any photon from any other direction than face to face. So it's essentially a one mass unit, which means it has mass in one dimension. And that's what all force is. So again, if we just think of it, of light just being one of the other forces, like gravity, like magnetism, light is an extension of force. And all it's doing is having mass in one dimension, one direction. It only has mass in the direction it's moving. And then you can understand that you, as a piece of matter, are made up of stuff moving in all three dimensions. You're radiating energy like a light bulb, from a point source, so to speak. And that's what gives you mass, is that you have things moving inside of you in all three dimensions. They're all one-dimensional objects, tons, moving in all three dimensions.
brainwashed by atomism. I hope you know what atom. If you don't know what atomism is, then you need to go back to college and high school.
Well, I'm just saying it's not really a commonly used term. I'm sure Wikipedia or some dictionary has some sort of, whatever, urban legend kind of description. But obviously, this idea of an atomist or whatever, that's almost like saying a theist. That could mean lots of things. It could mean pantheist. It could mean religious kook. It could mean lots of different things. So I don't think this goes anywhere. I mean, obviously, atom was used originally to describe the indivisible fundamental particle. Obviously, they missed by saying atom. Okay, and I would argue that yes, the real indivisible fundamental particle is a particle of force. Okay, whether it's a photon, a magneton, or a graviton.
I'll slap your physics teacher. You should know what the hell atomism is. It's a belief that Mother Nature is this crazy broad with a bag of magical particles.
Well, again, so now this whole implication that somehow particle theory is more complicated than ether theory. Right on its face, I would argue, no, this is like the push-pull argument. Okay, I mean, push wins the simplicity argument by a landslide, and a particle theory wins the simplicity argument by a landslide over any idea of some kind of perturbating ether field that somehow knows the difference between this kind of perturbation and that kind of perturbation and this one, and an electron and this one. No matter what I throw in it, somehow it rebalances itself to modify how fast the thing goes and what it does and how it behaves, because it's not dealing with a thing. It's manifesting a wave based on what's waving. Okay, what's flapping is deciding how the water moves. And so now the water has to do something much more complicated than the simple movement of particles. Particles are simple. Waves are complicated, and mediums can be extraordinarily complicated if you're going to give them so many attributes.
Our universe is just particles and particles and more particles on top of particles. Anyway, here's the insane definition of a photon. A photon is an elementary particle, the quantum of light. In other words, the core constituent of light and of all.
Yes, and of everything, really. Like I said, the quantity is in the force itself. The photon is just a manifestation of that force. So the force has been given polarization and frequency. So by establishing, see, I did prepare for his, whenever there's debate night, if we ever get there. Oh, I can't show it because the camera's not on right now. But You have to understand there could be lots of tons in between the frequency thing. It's just it's the distance between specific polarization that dictates the ability for electrons to react to the frequency. They can find it in the chaos because it's identifiable by the specific distance between the tons and the fact that they're specifically polarized.
All forms of electromagnetic radiation. See, light. There's no difference between light and, say, the 2 gigahertz signal that's emanating into the cell phone. And by the way, if you think that they're actually
Well, nobody's making that argument. So that, again, that's a straw man. Obviously, they put them all on the electromagnetic spectrum. So obviously, conventional physics is perfectly comfortable saying the tons that are radio waves are the same as the tons that are visible light, and they're just traveling at a different frequency.
particles emanating out of and into the cell phone when you're talking and being talked to, then you need your head examined.
Right. So it's impossible that there could be some discrete bits of force that move through the stuff, the nothing. So there's a little tiny something, and it's obviously very, very tiny. I mean, an apple is to the earth what an atom is to an apple, and a photon is to an electron. So photons are really small, really, really small. So yeah, I think they can squeeze across the distance and get to your phone.
Because that's also what quantum teaches. You know, I'm a ham radio operator. I know a lot about electromagnetism. And all.
Yeah, whatever. Again, these claims that you know a lot, okay, but you don't cite anything I would call anything called a reservoir of knowledge. All you do is quote Nikola Tesla. You don't quote experiments. You don't cite experiments. You just, and then when you do, they're experiments of your own creation, and you don't perform them in any kind of scientific method. You don't make them debatable because you don't do them with any kind of modifications to demonstrate where what you're saying may be entirely wrong.
All these cockroaches and all these knuckle-dragging, subhuman, pseudo-intellectual.
Right, so you're a subhuman, a pseudo-intellectual. If you kind of say, yes, I understand what Feynman's saying when he says it's a clump. Obviously, it lands that way and it travels that way. It doesn't spread, waves spread. So we need a kind of a new word for wave. There's no point in calling the waves that in every other medium spread, and you're going to call it the same thing when it doesn't do that. It's not a spreading wave. So you really do have to somehow qualify it with some other qualifier. It just seems silly to use the same word for two actions that are fundamentally different. Obviously, your ether does not provide opportunity for waves to spread.
Morons that want to have a debate with me about light, let's have a live stream. We'll set it up. We'll invite everybody in, and we'll have a debate about what light is, and I will destroy you.
Right. These are your claims, and I'm just saying it just seems that if you're at all sincere about that, then when I post 2 comments on your video from 2 different channels, that you might respond. You have responded to other people within this time frame, and yet there's no acknowledgement that, yes, okay, I'll send you the link when I open the room, maybe tomorrow. Just some indication of acknowledgement that you've acknowledged my request to be a participant in this debate. That would be a courtesy at minimum.
Okay, figuratively speaking. Let's set up a live stream about discussing light. I'll invite you in. You'll be invited in anyway. And let's have a debate about light. And let's see how far you get before you stumble over your own feet.
Yeah, well, again, yeah, let's see how far you get in terms of attempting to describe a simple diagram of physical reality. All right, you're talking physics. I mean, obviously, the term physics, in your opinion, is completely inappropriate. I don't know why your first argument isn't we shouldn't be calling it physics because it has nothing to do with anything physical.
Anybody's free to attack me on anything, but if you're going to attack me and quote me, then you should have something to substantiate your claims, other than saying, This guy's an idiot. He said this about light. Yeah.
Again, you're the one doing that, right? Quite obviously. So, I mean, I don't even know how you can do this crap. Some of this shit you say, I don't know how your brain doesn't just say, what the fuck did you just do? I mean, you spend this whole video doing nothing but insulting the intelligence and character of people who don't see it your way, as if they are psychotic lunatics. And then you sit there and talk about how they're arguing that way. No, you're arguing that way.
Yeah, I agree with you. He's insane. I hate that guy. Well, that's not really offering anything, is it? How much field theory?
You made a video response to one of my videos by just laughing. Um, how was there any depth or any reasoning or anything to that? How is that nothing but a troll behavior? You just can't make these complaints when you're the one who's the worst perpetrator. I mean, glass house all over the fucking place. You just don't get that concept, right? You're so above it all that you really just can't see that, you know, anybody else can even have a reflection in your mirrored world. It's all about you everywhere you turn.
Have you studied? And I want a question for you. How many books on field theory have you written? I've written 2 books on field theory.
Well, I'm just saying that writing books does not make you an authority on anything. The Scientology guy wrote lots of books. Lots of crazy people write lots of crazy shit. I've read half of one of your books. Found it incredibly tedious. The redundancies alone are just mind-numbing. I mean, the same quotes over and over and over and over.
One of them is insanely popular, far beyond my beliefs, because generally speaking, books on field theory are pretty...
Yeah, well, whatever. This insanely popular claim, again, substantiated with nothing called anything I could consider evidence of popularity, but fine, whatever.
Damn boring. Even to me, they're very interesting, but to most people, they're pretty boring. My book on field theory, specifically on magnetism, my one book of 2 that I have, is incredibly popular. Far beyond even my wildest dreams. And it's...
Yeah, again, I'd like to test even let's say even if there was a lot of people who downloaded it, I would like to be able to. I mean, this room is open. I've requested any of your sycophant lunatic followers to sit there and join in here and defend your theories, and there haven't been any takers. I'm just wondering how many people really who have read your book can actually explain in any kind of reasonable framework what it is you're arguing and defending.
Not even halfway done yet. Oh, yes. So let's work off this insane, radical, monkey nonsense of a photon particle. Yeah, a photon meaning light.
Monkey nonsense. I mean, that's, again, just more really great rhetoric.
Saying the key constituent of light is a photon particle. Well, let's define particle. Particle is a minute portion of matter. It is phenomena. It is existential. It has a Cartesian vector of magnitude. Now,
well, whatever. It really doesn't matter. If you cut to the chase, it's what you think of as a particle. It's if I throw a rock, you think of it as a thing moving at a velocity in a direction. Now, it doesn't really matter what the rock is made out of. The rock could be made out of cat shit. It could be made out of bird shit. It could be made out of water. It could be made out of lead. It could be made out of whatever you want to make it out of. The point is, it has a discrete, identifiable substance in that it will, when it bangs into the stuff we consider to be stuff, there's going to be a stuff-on-stuff reaction. And the fact the word quantum is appropriate in the sense that it's a quantifiable reaction. Throw a rock, the rock hits as a rock. It doesn't really matter what it's made out of. It's absorbed and then either converted into some other rock energy going down a wire, or it's thrown out in some other direction as some sort of rock of a color that we can't recognize.
no, light doesn't. If that were the case, then I could go out all day shooting and take like, I don't know, 64 gigs worth of pictures and be like, oh my God, my camera's about to burst at the seams. Let me take that lens off and shake out those photons sitting on my sensor.
Well, again, you talk all this like you want to take field theory seriously, and yet you seem to have no conception of how it functions. It's like a flow of a substance, and the flow goes through the lens. It gets controlled by the lens, like water can be narrowed in the path or go down a trellis, or lots of different ways of organizing the fluid. And then what happens when the fluid goes into a reservoir? Then it can leak out, and then it can under pressure, it can turn a turbine, and it can do all kinds of different things. And quite obviously, with the thing, the rock, when it hits your sensor in your camera, it doesn't just break off or bounce off or fall down somewhere and stop moving. No, it goes into it. Okay, it flows into this new reservoir, and it then the reservoir takes over in terms of the eddies and patterns, and eventually it could go through the turbine and create electricity.
Does anybody have any sort of sick, delusional, perverted notions of that in their head? Do you really?
Yeah, I really do, and I think a lot of other rational people do. And again, these cheap, you know, I don't even want to call them dime store, they're penny store insults. I mean, they're just so preposterously inappropriate and excessive and silly. They're childish insults. I mean, big, giant, childish insults.
Do you think that since all electromagnetism is the same as visible light, it is all EMR, electromagnetic radiation, and since high frequency EMR.
Again, the fact that regular physics has put itself in a quandary, okay, that, yeah, they're going to end up having a field that they can't really describe until it's on. So they're going to tell you that when the light bulb's on, there's a field. When the light bulb's off, there's no field. Now, I'd concede that they got that wrong. There's a field, it's just the field changes. So turning the light bulb on means that you're filtering the stuff in the field, and now you have a field that can interact with photons and with electrons and protons. And so the light is now detectable because it will accelerate electrons, and that acceleration can be interpreted through any kind of system. Our neural system does it very well. I mean, it converts the photons into electricity and creates neural activity pretty directly.
Can pass through a solid block of lead. Do you think that there are actually particles that are actually? Do you really think that EMR has?
Well, the truth is that a lot of particles won't get through lead, and so that's the indication that yes, that there's different permeability, okay, depending on the chemistry, and the chemistry will filter for different forms of radiation. So some radiation will go through easily, some radiation won't go through at all. Something like a transparency of glass. Some radiation, the visible light, goes through, the ultraviolet does not. Lots of things filter for different radiations based on the nuances of the character of the rock being thrown, so to speak. Small rocks will go through a screen. Big rocks won't.
Now, photon would not merely be visible light. It would be the same crap at 2 gigahertz passing invisibly out of this. Do you really think your cell phone is emitting particles? If that were true.
Yes, and it's emitting them in huge amounts, in the sense that the frequency is so much lower. So when you say 2 gigahertz, well, actually that's much lower than the frequency of light. So light is at I don't know what the gigahertz equivalent would be for visible light, but it's really high. So yeah, but yes, so when you start going further and further down in the spectrum, you're going to get less and less detail and less resolution, because the tons no longer are admitted as rays. They're just admitted as almost wave fronts, big giant massive particles and another massive particles and another massive particles. Yes, that's what's flying through the atmosphere right now.
if that sort of bullshit, that sort of hair.
Again, the particles are always there. They're just getting labeled with polarization. So I mean, to be explicitly true, I have to state that the particles don't really change where they're going ever. They just change what suit they're wearing, what polarization suit changes. And that's it. They exchange clothes, but there is no such thing as stopping one of them. You can only strip the clothes off and stick some new guy inside the clothes going in a new direction.
Brained, knuckle dragging, subhuman nonsense for truth.
Right. So it's knuckle dragging, subhuman nonsense. I mean, what is nonsense is having to think that you're showing any integrity as a debater or an arguer or a defender of your theory by using this completely unnecessary, gratuitously insulting and offensive rhetoric. It serves absolutely no productive function. It doesn't make your point. It's only the rhetoric of a frickin' propagandist. This is the kind of thing a desperate person does, not somebody who has the argument. If you have the argument, you have all kinds of ability to cut all kinds of breaks. And here you are just gratuitously being insulting.
That would mean that no matter how many times you charge and discharge your battery, that your phone is actually losing weight.
Okay, so he laughs at that concept, but it's true. Yes, your phone does actually lose weight. The electrons, when they gain acceleration, and they likely gain field energy. So the more active they are, the more likely there's a lot of field polarization, and the polarization is what has weight. So mass is pretty much dictated in terms of gravitational impact based on specific polarization. So gravity is just as dependent on that existing. So, but the truth is that yes, when you fill a battery, it's going to weigh more than when it's empty. It's a fact. They'll probably be able to demonstrate it with something like, I would imagine the lithium batteries for Tesla type cars and stuff, they can probably measure the weight difference. It's so much energy being pumped into those batteries.
Do you really think that actual particles are being emitted by your phone or being received from repeater towers? Now, I'm a ham radio operator, and I've studied.
Yes, and everybody knows that there's a conservation of the movement of those particles. So when they go in, they come out. So again, your argument that somehow the device is just collecting them and it never lets any of them loose, well, we know it does that. Your cameras get hot. So the evidence of the fact that this energy is released is, something you even talk about in terms of these things overheating and batteries exploding. Well, all of that happens because of this activity of these particles moving, them banging around.
Field theory. No matter what anybody thinks of me, I've studied field theory more than any of these subhuman morons out there.
Again, these arguments. Okay, you've studied it more. Now, whether that's a qualitative study or a quantitative study is, I would question. I don't think you really have done any of that. I don't think you've seen too many physics lectures, frankly. So whatever you've studied is like Tesla books and other religious writing, maybe. But I'm not too sure you've studied anything really relevant like experiments.
They're flinging poo at me about my descriptions of light. If they want to have a debate, let's have a debate on a live stream, and I will destroy you. Let's see how far you can get on discussing light.
Yeah, okay, it's big talk so far. So yes, I'm taking you up on your offer, and I'm pretty certain I can do it without being grotesque as you are in terms of insulting your intelligence in the process. But yes, I think there's an argument to be made, and I think I can defend the rationality of particle theory. The evidence, okay, is the argument. The evidence is there, and the fact that you, through particle theory, can unify force. Force moves the speed of light. There isn't a light speed, there's a force speed.
Anyway, enough to that. Okay, so there's no such thing as a static particle. That doesn't emit. A force carrier for EM, that's absolute nonsense.
All right, so that's we got the debate part in. That's probably enough. So his videos are vacuous, so there's no point in me wasting too much time on it. So we'll be done with that. I guess I might as well look to see if there's any comments while the screen share is on. And we'll get to that. It's probably just more crap from the crap heads. That's all there really are, is crappy people. Okay, so you can't, okay, Sid can't see my links either. Yeah, well, I mean, quite obviously they're in the spam bucket or something. And he's, like I said, YouTube is just facilitating this delusion that there's some right of speech. And, it seems like the only people who have free speech rights on YouTube are trolls. Honest people don't seem to have those rights. I can't even PM people. The funny thing is, if I send a link to somebody I've known for years on YouTube, it goes in the spam folder. What the hell is that? I mean, if I send a PM, complete bullshit. Ken's Gnu's, okay. LOL, hi all, hello. Who's a fat guy? Well, whatever. Yeah, that's why your phone gets hot when you charge it. Well, it's not exactly why it gets hot. It gets hot when you charge it, because obviously it's moving the crap. And to move the crap, it's jiggling a lot of crap to move the crap. In terms of, again, storing the polarization. What's really happening is the polarization of the quanta in the electrons is essentially being peeled off, okay, of the force, and stored in electron traps. I mean, essentially the field energy is being it's probably a way to say this without, I mean, I want to say it correctly. Point is, electrons have positions, and those positions are changed based on how much mass they have absorbed. But it also depends on how quiet they are. I mean, obviously, the more active an electron, the more it creates, okay, the polarizing energy, the magnetism that makes it repulsive to the other electrons. So the quieter the electron is, the less magnetic it is. So it can settle into, it can be compacted, I guess is the word I'm looking for. So it's really, a battery is compacting the field energy for expansion later. It's almost like a rocket engine, right? Yeah, you compress the gas and then you uncompress it violently, by igniting it. Anyway. So, yeah, it's just disappointing that, like I said, that Ken hasn't responded to either one of the posts. And, I just don't know if that's meaningfully, like he's actually going to find some way to weasel out of these bold statements he's made about being willing to debate. I mean, clearly he's not willing to come into this room or, play in anybody else's ball field. And I'm certainly willing to play in his. But I just mean, it just seems that the simplest courtesy, like I said, would be to respond to the comments with a, yeah, let's get it on. I'll probably do the room tomorrow or something like that, but nothing. And the fact that my comment is in the spam folder, apparently, not a good sign. But it's obviously in there with an awful lot of other comments, because I don't know whether anybody else has noticed the same thing. Okay, the thread says, 100 and something comments, and obviously it's not even, like I said, there's 25 comments showing. I think we can get rid of this theater mode. Yes. Get rid of this grossly fat text also. Reset. Thank you very much. Okay. Back to the normal. So anyway, yeah, so it just isn't, there's no 100 comments here. A lot less than 100. So where are all those other comments? And why are they not appearing? I mean, he clearly knows how to take stuff out of the spam folders because he's had photo contests and he's probably had to pull a lot of stuff out of the spam folders because they were all linked to photos. So, now, what's the deal? Bok, 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 bok. I think it's the deal. This is a chicken shit move or something. So anyway, but the good news is it did motivate me to do a little bit of note taking, and I do want to do in the next video. Maybe it'll be a video, not an open room. I don't know. Just so I can do images more gracefully. I guess we'll get done with the screen share here. All right. And the sync will probably be broken and all that crap. But anyway, so I mean, I did take notes. You know, I got some good little notes here about how to explain this. But I mean, you know, it really is so simple. I mean, I really do have the simple diagram. It really just is this idea of moving polarization. So the only thing happening in all these, the entire universe is this thing right here. This is the game. All right. So let's say the electron is made of these blue polarization. Well, anything blue just looks like nothing happens, right? Two blues hit each other. One blue leaves. One blue leaves. Just nothing happens. There's no change here. It's just, did they go through each other? Did they bounce off each other? No way to detect any change at all. The universe changes nada. And clearly, though, when red, if it reflects and blue reflects, well, clearly this universe is substantially different. Okay, this clearly you can see the difference. Two things come in, and then reflection, it's going the opposite direction. The polarization is now moving in 180 degrees different direction. So this is the whole mechanism. So the electrons are doing the blue thing, the protons are doing the red thing. It means they're emitting the force that's like when a red comes into a blue, it's hostile. So when blue hits blue, it goes right through. So when electrons see blue, they see nothing. When protons see red, they see nothing, and vice versa. So it magnifies the force. That's magnetism. Once you magnify the force, so you change the force from 0 to this doubling or tripling or even higher of the force, and game on. And there's a constant production of the very thing you're hostile to. So the blue electrons constantly reflect red. So say when a graviton comes in and it hits the electron. So the gravity force is like energy coming from all directions because it's field energy, all 3 dimensions. But when it hits one of these blue fuckers, it goes red. So the electron is constantly emitting these red bitches. So obviously, to the proton, who's all red, it's like there's no force coming off this electron. There's no gravity at all. It's changed all the gravity into red. And so now it's going to move right into it because they're very compatible now because there's no pressure and they're both being hit from the outside by the field energy. So all the acceleration will be right towards each other. And quite obviously, if this electron is constantly producing red, well, it's very hostile to all the other electrons. And the red hits and it reflects, and that means it's going to gain the acceleration. Reflection means acceleration. And I mean, it's right there. That I'm telling you, I know that doesn't seem like enough to say that's really the kernel. Okay, right there's the kernel of the universe. That's the thing. There's nothing else more important than this fact. This right here is the entire, what you see as a universe. That's why you see it. All that's really happening is little bits are zooming through. They hit somebody, steal its clothes for a minute, ride with its clothes, then something else hits them, they lose the clothes. They're just changing clothes. So all you are is a suit of polarization. It's not a physical shell, don't get me wrong. It's just an orientation. And that orientation travels when there's imbalances in the field energy, then there'll be more things stealing the clothes, and the clothes will move. The orientation will move. But all movement is a derivative of the speed of force. All movement is a derivative of the speed of light of little tiny quanta. The speed of little quanta moving the speed of light. All movement is just a derivative of those things, and them being visible versus invisible, detectable versus undetectable. That's it. And it unifies everything. It explains every phenomenon on Earth. It's so simple as a diagram. So anyway, like I said, I do want to make a video presenting that in as ABC a manner as I can, and because it just makes it all fall into place. I'm just saying, there's nothing that can't be explained with that mechanism. Nothing. So anyway, no, is there anything else? Don't know if there's any point in just talking for the hell of it. So anyway, yeah, red bitches. Well, that's very interesting. You yell and character attack anyone who disagrees with you. Well, again, prove that. Prove that when I in an interview, person on person with somebody, that I do any of that. I don't take shit from trolls, douchebag. I have no obligation to listen to your insults, cunt. So, yeah, I'm not a pussy. I'm not your, you think you're going to cuck me. Well, fuck you. No, I'm going to punch you in the nose and say, drop dead, cunt. Yeah. So you lose. I mean, just amazing trolls. I mean, they ought to really have a TV show and just analyze this psychotic crap that's on the internet. Because obviously working people don't have a chance to be on the internet. So these are obviously dysfunctional people. And I'm one of them. But I'm not a psychotic lunatic. I mean, I don't behave this childish as these little weasels, these trolls. Just amazing. But that don't make him a maniac. I don't know who that's to. A maniac of science, maybe. What's your take on gravity? LOL. Gravity is a joke. Yeah, well, whatever. Big bad wolf man. Yeah, I mean, again, another, 15-year-old screen name, or 13-year-old? Just go away, silly person. Big bad wolf man. I mean, just by screen names alone, you could just say, why be on the internet? "99% retard." I mean, it was just, there was, if you go through my last 4 videos, let's say, and just honestly, just somebody honestly calculates, well, what part is he talking about physics, and in what part is he just, maligning somebody for no reason, or insulting them in some gratuitous manner without any provocation. And you're not going to find any, you're not going to find any justification for the accusation that I started or I picked the fights. It's just bullshit. I mean, I do call people on being liars. I mean, sometimes people are polite, but they're also liars. And, you do have to call them what they are. So, there's a certain point where, like I said, the guy who made the ball bearing video, there's a certain point where you just say he's not pervious to an argument. He will not. I mean, you ask him a simple question, right? Well, what if the loop was in gravity? What if the loop was made by gravity? How fast do you think the ball would travel? And when they don't want to answer a simple question, because obviously that would answer the question of whether he knew anything about this at all. The dynamics of moving objects in circular motion. Because in gravity, the acceleration won't be slower because gravity is providing the turning energy. And I mean, I couldn't make that any clearer, right? It's quite obvious that gravity provides the turning energy. It's what it does. It accelerates things in a direction, and it doesn't force them to use their own velocity to do the turning. It turns for them. It pushes them. But on the ground, on a racetrack, the car has to produce the turning energy. It has to dig into the ground, and it has to bounce off of the ground and constantly provide the energy of going in, turning, not going straight. It has to create a tremendous amount of traction. Okay, I won't say friction because friction is associated with waste, but traction's a little different. Traction is friction, but you're not wasting it. It's not just heat. It's doing something. And what it's doing is it's converting your velocity in one direction into a velocity in another direction, which is an acceleration in another direction. It's decelerating you in one direction and accelerating you in another. Yeah, I don't know if I like saying decelerating though, because obviously you don't lose the velocity in the end. When you get out of the turn, you'll be going just as fast as you were when you went into the turn. It'll give it back. It's conservative. Well, really, Patrick, this is not the place for that. What do you think about how difficult it is to advance financially in America? It's not difficult as long as you're a crook. Now, if you have integrity and or you're decent, well, then it's hard. But if you don't mind screwing people, it's probably pretty easy to come up with a racket and cheat a bunch of old people out of their money. Well, no, I don't think Einstein spin space, curved space. It's a silly notion. There's no definition of this space. There's no definition of the mechanism. It's a silly placeholder for the truth, as I call it. Gravity is a push force, not a pull force. You can't go anywhere with his curved space. It doesn't work in 3 dimensions. It makes no sense. It's just rubbish. It's just a way of illustrating the inverse square law by making a physical funnel and calling it, well, look, that's the inverse square law. Well, yes, that cone is the inverse square law, but so what? It doesn't mean the universe is made out of cones. Let's see, I can masturbate to you and Mendham. Well, you can do that, but you can't really talk about it in this room. So I find your contribution vacuous and useless. So good night. For hopefully a long good night. Yeah, a very long good night. See, I mean, well, Einstein, like I said, I'm going to unravel the whole thing, but Einstein was wrong about bending light. His equation was wrong. I mean, you can't bend light. There's no time dilation. The whole bent space, the whole connection of putting space and time in a separate dimension is just silly. Time is a function in the 3 dimensions, and gravity is a push force. I mean, look up Mach gravity because particle gravity fits. It works, and because I've recognized this kinetic thing, okay, this frictionless mechanism. I've fixed all of the flaws of. I've fixed why Mach gravity couldn't be the truth. I have now created a reason why now it can be the truth, and it's the simpler by by a mile. It's the simpler description of reality, the simpler mechanism. Yeah, well, he has to get into a lot of his equations. See, the thing is, it does get a little nuanced and complicated, because I could argue that, okay, let's say I'm doing this school of fish argument, and let's say we're talking about something's momentum. So as the fish start going in just one direction, right? So I'm moving the school faster and faster. For the school of fish to go faster and faster, more and more fish have to go the way the school is moving. So I'm losing all the fish going sideways and up and down, and obviously the fish going the wrong way. All of those fish can't play anymore as I'm going faster and faster. But you'd have to understand that the percentage of the energy, what I'm really changing, I'm never changing the forward fish, right? So I'm never part of the equation is always going to be that whatever percentage is the fish going in the right direction, they're never going to be part of the equation of explaining how much energy I have to put in to create a change, if you get what I'm saying. So the equation does get a little complicated because you're losing fish to change. Okay, as you start changing them, it gets harder and harder to find the fish you need to change, which is one aspect of it. So it's sort of like the gravity argument. There is a subtlety there that Einstein was good at finding. And the realization that the sun was actually precessing, and the sun's precession is what was causing Mercury's precession. Because you have to recognize that even though you don't visually see the sun moving, its center of gravity is moving. And that's the real important part. So you're moving the sun's center of gravity is precessing, and that's really causing the precession in Mercury. So I'm just saying, Einstein was, people say he wasn't a great mathematician and he always needed help, but the fact that he had people consult and help is to his credit, because the equations he came up with were very, very, very rigorous. Even though I don't agree with the premises underlying them, they're rigorous equations. But obviously they have huge flaws, like the bent space problem, where there's nothing in the equation to prevent, making the infinite well. You just keep digging the well deeper, and that premise, that assumption that you can just dig, you can just keep digging deeper into bent space, is, on its face, it doesn't sound logical. Okay, that you can, there's an infinite bend ability to the curved space. My only argument against black holes is you have this whole proton, neutron, electron problem. So until you show me how you can, like I said, even in a super cold environment, you can only compress matter so much. I mean, you quiet it down, all the stuff stops moving too much. It just moves very little. Okay, just a little, you let as little field polarization in. So you make all the polarization coming in, all the energy coming in is of benign as you can make it polarization. I mean, you're always stuck with gravity, and gravity's always going to be jiggling this shit, because it's always going to jiggle electrons and protons. So you can't ever make it really quiet. But I'm just saying, you take it and get as much noise as you can out of it, create as much, peace and quiet. Well, this is your compression, and there's no indication that you could magnify that compression by 1,000,000 times. To have these black hole theories make any sense, you're talking about compressing matter 1,000,000 times. Like somehow you made protons, neutrons, and electrons 1,000,000 times smaller. Where's there any rational reason to think that's possible? There's no examples of anything like that anywhere in our known universe. So they're just speculating that this is possible. I don't see any possibility. And what I would argue is what we do see in the universe is that when things get too heavy, too massive, they implode. They crash under their own gravity. Their own gravity becomes too heavy to maintain anything else but a hot, liquid, convulsive mechanism. So the heavier you get, the more torque, the whole thing gets unstable. So the more likely it is you're going to blow up, not that you're going to get so quiet that you can, become super cool and somehow compress matter into a grapefruit. No real chance, in my opinion. But you can see that a lot of what they think about how the universe works are just wrong assumptions, because you see them use black holes and say there must be black holes in the center of galaxies. And I see a huge problem in the sense that I don't think they're acknowledging that galaxies are nothing like solar systems. That unlike a solar system, galaxies have equal mass on both sides. They have equilibrium in terms of the mass in the system. And that mass can create enough gravity to hold the galaxy together. You don't need a heavy thing in the middle. You just need balanced mass. Yeah, well, again, observations, you know, when you go to try to find this stuff, you don't really find it, do you? You find simulations, you find something else. You don't see the raw data they're using. Um, but again, you don't know what it is that's orbiting something, right? So if you just guess at its weight, then you're stuck with, some sort of mass equation for its movement. But what if it's 3 times lighter than they think it is? What if it's 100 times lighter than they think it is? Then all of a sudden that black hole just becomes a heavy planet. So um, I'm just saying that I don't know what to say. I'm just saying the evidence is very thin. If there was a black hole there and they could actually see something moving very fast into it, they should be able to see some of the field behind it, which means they should be able to make a gravitational lens out of it. And then they could end this whole conversation by showing me the gravitational lens created by the black hole. But they don't do that. So I guess I would argue that I think their images are what you might think they are, which is they're from like a radio telescope in like some sort of microwave radiation or X-ray radiation. And, the data is hey, we saw this blob and it went here to here. And, I'm just saying that you want to say that's good enough to draw a conclusion. I don't think so. I think that's, like I said, they can't even properly describe the two-slit experiment, let alone rationally interpret it. So they first can't even describe what it does accurately, and then they clearly just keep making, three bear stories up all over the place. They just Copenhagen, many worlds, mishy mushy. I mean, there's like 4 interpretations, so they can't even come close to coming up with some sort of rational explanation. And yet, I'm supposed to take their word for what they're seeing in the center of a galaxy somewhere. Yeah, I'm not going to take their word for it. Until I see it, I ain't necessarily believing it. Well, you say they can. Again, you say so. I mean, I just read an article in one of these science magazines, and they were talking about some new discovery. And not one image on the page was an actual image of anything. Every single image was a simulation. You're just saying, well, if you have evidence, why aren't you showing the evidence? Why are you showing me simulations? Why don't you show me what you have as data? And, you have to wonder about the motivations of people who aren't showing you the data. Yeah, well, I mean, the notion of quantum gravity doesn't even make sense, because obviously gravity is already a nuclear force. I mean, gravity moves electrons and protons, and it moves them because they're contained the polarization, as I'm pointing out. And that's it. There's you have to hit the blue thing with the red thing. You have to hit the red thing with the blue thing. And the gravitational field has lots of colors in it. So most of the colors go straight through, but when a red hits a blue, it accelerates it. When a blue hits a red, it accelerates it. So, I mean, gravity is already a nuclear force. It doesn't really need to be quantized. It's already creating the membrane that you would call an electron. The electron is being held together by gravity. Well, let's say you observe the movement of stars at high velocity around the center of the Milky Way. What other conclusion can you make aside from black holes? I don't know what you're saying. I've just pointed out how I don't see that evidence. So you're claiming you know how much the stars weigh, you know what those are, and you know how to, you're going to make assumptions, um, you know, about their velocity. Now, first off, I would argue that velocity orbits around dense things. So if you think about this one, something has to, in an orbit, okay, this is one of the biggest lies of the Einstein bent fabric, because the bent fabric doesn't illustrate what really happens in the real world, because the bent fabric has enough friction in it to slow things down. But in a real gravitational well, okay, there's two outcomes. When I just barely push something into the well, there's only two outcomes. It crashes into the thing in the middle, or it rolls back out and ends up at exactly the same speed it started with. So those are the only two outcomes possible, okay, in a clean environment. That's what will happen. This thing will go right in and the gravity will pull it right into the center, or it will miss the center because of an angle and it will just shoot out the other side and end up at exactly the same speed. That's gravity, scientifically accurate gravity. So let's say you have a sun moving very fast, okay? You have to understand, how did it acquire that acceleration and stay in, not go into the black hole. And what I would argue to you is the only way that can happen is that sun had to hit something. So as it entered the gravity, it had to encounter something else and have its velocity actually decreased for it to get into an orbit. So I'm just saying that you have to take consequence. If you're going to create strong gravity, you have to take responsibility for the effects of strong gravity. And merely stating that there's a sun going very, very fast, well, then you're going to have to explain how it got into the solar system in the first place going very, very fast. Okay, so here you have, we don't see any suns flying between galaxies going very, very fast. We don't see any stuff, flaming balls moving very, very fast anywhere. So if you're going to claim you have one going very, very fast, you have to explain how it got there. All right. And, that's going to be a little bit complicated, I think, because a strong gravity, things are going to tend to go plow right into it. It's hard to find an orbit. Orbits are not common, they're rare. Most crap that goes into a solar system gets crushed by it. It gets eaten by the gravity. The gravity sucks it right into the sun, or it shoots right out. The same way it came in, it goes back out. So again, this high velocity is based on redshift. So redshift again has to be properly understood, right? We already know that they have observed a whole bunch of extra redshift in the universe, right? There's more stuff redshifted than blue shifted. That's their whole theory of expansion and all this other stuff. So what if they're calculating redshift incorrectly? What if they don't understand how redshift really works? Because it's hard to do an experiment, right? It's very hard to do an experiment to prove redshift. From a light source. Something emitting light through fusion. First, we don't have anything like that. We can't make a plasma, that's fusing atoms. And then we certainly can't accelerate it to any kind of super speeds. But whatever. My argument is, I've made the argument in other videos, but redshift, I think, redshift ends up getting doubled. because of two phenomenon. First, the phenomenon of you moving away from something means the frequency is getting stretched, because as you're moving away, the stuff you're dropping is getting dropped at a different time interval. And then there's the whole problem with the metabolism thing. As you speed up the matter, its fusion process slows down, and it's not going to be emitting the same color light anymore. It's going to emit light at a lower frequency. As metabolism slows down, you're gonna get redshifted by that fact alone. Yeah, well, I'm not saying the ARP guy is right or wrong. I'm just saying I have my own theory that redshift is a phenomenon, like I said, that is created by two mechanisms. The speed is one consequence. The metabolism is a second consequence. So redshift is being created by two forces, two types of interactions. So there's the redshift is much higher in very fast objects than the object is actually moving. It always looks like it's going faster than it actually is, because the redshift is being doubled. Yeah, I saw some videos by Hamilton ARP. I wasn't terribly impressed, actually. I mean, he has his own theory, you know what I mean? And I can't remember what it was, but it was, I found it, no, that doesn't sound right either. I mean, it was one of those things, it just wasn't quite right. So, I am still here. Yeah, and it gets into this whole electric universe stuff. As soon as somebody says plasma, then it's electric, and it's this, and it's like, no. So it's like I almost wish that we could, you wish you could go back in time, or you wish you could start over and just get certain words and just change them or do something with them so people didn't have these silly ideas. But the very fact that people got comfortable, I guess it's lightning and sparks. I guess those things just make people think, oh, those can't be things, because look at that, it's all sparky and it's all blah, 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 blah. And I guess if you show them a sparkular, though, then they can see, oh yeah, those are little bits flying off that are red hot, and I can sort of see that, and you can sort of see the idea of it radiating, and but it's just all the image thing. It's image over, that's the substance. It just becomes people's capacity to imagine something. And, frankly, I personally just can't do anything with this idea of a, the sine wave view of light, with the two waves, one horizontal this way, waving this way, and one going this way. How does that make sense to anybody? I just can't understand how it makes any sense to anybody. It just ain't what photons are doing. This is what photons are doing. So, this would be the closer together frequency, so there's little tons in between. I made them smaller, but they'd all be the same size. It'd just be, some are polarized, specific polarization, and those are at specific time intervals separation. So that would be blue light, a ray of blue light, an array of green light, they're further apart, an array of red light, they're even further apart. And that's light. So light there's still lots of other quanta flying in the same direction. But it's identifying the polarization. That's the key element, the red part even. So the idea is that the electrons are sensitive to the part that's polarized. So when that hits them, it means something. That hits them and it reflects and it creates acceleration in the electron. And that's the game. The game is accelerating the electron. That's what makes anything in the electromagnetic spectrum mean anything, but it's all the same thing. It's just polarization. It's a movie in the background. Over there, right? Yeah. So let's see what movie it is. It is Blue Lagoon. Yeah. Yay. I should try to tilt the camera just a little bit. Yeah, I didn't realize it's, this stupid camera is a pain in the ass. Yeah, now you can see it properly. But yes, Blue Lagoon. Yeah, I have like 10 hours of movies running on. I have like 3 of those in the house here. Got 2, 3, 4 of them maybe. They only run on 11 watts, which is really great. And I find it very visually interesting, to have the, just when you're having like a dead moment, you just want to go, oh yeah, I can watch 3 minutes of a movie. And movies are sort of interesting without the sound, especially when you know the dialogue, because you see more. It's a whole different experience, but I really do enjoy it. I mean, I have enjoyed it. Let me put it that way. I found it an asset to my comfort. Yeah, it comforts me in some way to have that little bit of distraction and kind of it's like a muse. It's sometimes it's a little bit inspiring. Sometimes just adds a little bit of character to my life. All right, let me see what it says here. A thin, pretty good evidence against cosmic expansion is the measured temperature of the background radiation. It was predicted to be much hotter. Yeah, well, I mean, this, temperature is a tricky thing, so I don't know. I mean, the real point is that, the background radiation is really the density of gravity in some senses. So you could argue that maybe at the end of the universe, gravity dissipates, and that's why everything's falling apart at the end of the universe, or some kind of argument like that. But there's just so many different kinds of arguments you can make, and I personally don't really give a shit about that part of the equation. The origins of the universe to me are less interesting than just identifying the process. So it's like the abiogenesis versus evolution. Abiogenesis might be interesting in that, oh yes, this is really cool chemistry, but it's not nearly as interesting as once you have a DNA molecule, what happens. In my opinion, that subject's more relevant. So I would say that the origin story of matter itself, I don't really give a shit. I want to just know the function now. I mean, obviously the universe is pretty dull and boring, and it does a lot of the same shit all over the place. So I'm just saying the mechanics of the universe is, I just don't see any point in worrying about where it's going or where it's been, because it looks like it's been doing the same shit for an awful long fucking time. So who cares? Anyway, I guess I would answer these more important questions before I would worry about those questions. Those questions are like, they just shouldn't even be on the drawing board right now. There's, unification is much more important. And now that I've done that, I mean, really, diagramming this quanta thing, really diagramming it, that's the game. I wouldn't bother with Eric Dollard. He's again, show me one of his videos where he says something that I can make any sense of at all. How can I argue with complete babble? Tesla coily spinny thingy. Zappity zap. Perturbation. I'm just saying, I can't. What can I do with it? Just like I say, if you have a link to an Eric Dollard video that you say he's saying something that anybody with a brain could comprehend one single fucking thing he's saying, okay. But otherwise, it just sounds like religion to me. I mean, it doesn't even sound like religion in English. It's like some Muslim guy going, "Oh no, Yeah, I ain't gonna get that. Whoosh. Whoosh. You want a drink of water? Okay, no problem. I can do that. Popsicle? Frozen grape juice? Close enough? Yeah, but no, I can't. Sorry. I mean, it's like even responding to a Ken video. You're just like, well, what the fuck do I do with this? Okay, lights a coaxial cable, like a drop of water radiating and blurping. It blurps this way and it radiates that way, but the radiation doesn't matter because that doesn't do anything. Well, like the coaxial part, but that part doesn't matter because it doesn't obviously go anywhere because nothing else is affected by the light except the thing the light hits. So obviously this stuff going this way doesn't matter, but it's perturbating all over the place. I mean, it's just perturbating, like a percolator, percolating through the ether. Okay, how do you argue with that? I mean, it's just like, oh, well, can't I just say light hits the gingerbread dominoes and they bounce off of each other? Isn't that just as good? Huh? Gingerbread? Yeah, gingerbread ether. So, yeah, just, I mean, it's just, everything's so discouraging. You know, I mean, just, just, I knew this was going to happen. This whole Trump running for president thing is just so fucking insane. You're just like, God, how can this be our reality? These fucking Bubba morons. They're so, God, I got to kill the blacks and I got to keep the Mexicans out so bad that I'll elect a tax cheat who's going to give the fucking richest people in the country billions of dollars. I mean, how can they be this stupid? I mean, fuck. And the fucking hypocrite Christians. I mean, Jesus Christ. The guy just goes out and says, yeah, you just grab him by the pussy and kiss him and fuck him and then say, fuck you, bitch. And to give you any trouble, you have him whacked. I mean, the duplicity, these lying. Why don't they just say, I can't stand black people. I'm sick of them. I'm sick of the fucking foreign. Why not just be honest and just say, I personally can't stand it anymore. I hate the look of them. I hate the smell of them. I hate the sound of them. I can't stand these foreign cunts. Why don't you just be honest? But also be honest that, but fuck, don't be giving rich people more fucking money. That doesn't make any fucking sense. You know. Oh, I mean, it's just so bad. An inheritance, fucking welfare whore. I mean, shit. I just, oh, he's such a man. Oh, a man who's never spent one day without the daddy's net under him. Oh, disgusting. It doesn't really matter. I mean, Hillary is not going to sit there and give the fucking billionaires, just hand them freaking $25 billion worth of tax cuts. Ugh. I mean, Reaganomics. She's defending Reaganomics. I mean, everybody should know that didn't work by now. Let's create more deficits and then talk about the deficit. These deficits are outrageous. What's blah, blah, blah. But yeah, let's borrow more money because I don't want rich people to pay taxes. Just insane. I don't even know what you mean by posturing for television. The show couldn't be more of a fucking freak show. I actually saw Trumpenstein as an image, and that really makes sense. This freak show is so far out of control. I mean, I've always known Trump was an insane child. And it just amazes me that it's taken this long for people to see the real Trump. But now that they actually see him, they're still saying, it's okay. Let's put a complete lunatic. Let's make a complete petty lunatic president of the United States. He can't even handle Hillary Clinton. I mean, the whole debate, he's sitting there, ooh, that bitch, ooh, that bitch. He's holding onto his chair, ooh, that fucking bitch. Oh, just amazing. I don't see anything that's a fucking 6,000 letter word. What the hell is sonoluminescence? Sololuminescence. No, it's not something I would do. I have some respect for my body. I don't go fucking playing in that kind of shit. Oh, whatever. You're going to keep saying this political posturing thing. You think Trump is posturing. Oh, amazing. He doesn't even know what that word means. You think it was really just locker room talk, huh? That's what you really think. You really think Trump was just doing locker room talk, like I'm bragging in front of the little punk, but I don't really take women out married women out furniture shopping so I can move on them like a bitch. Yeah, no, he wasn't really doing that. He wasn't really moving on a married woman. No, he doesn't do that in real life. He's just posturing. Whatever. He really does love black people. He's just posturing. But whatever. No, just shut up because you're just going to piss me off. It's so silly. I mean, these assholes who think Trump's going to even do any of this shit again. He's going to do the tax cut, but he's not going to do anything about the illegals. If you want to do something about illegals, like I said, we already had the answer. The answer is employer sanctions. That's how you fix the illegal problem, if you really want to do it. But obviously, neither party really wants to do that. So it's never going to happen. But the wall won't work. The wall will just be another $2 trillion pissed away on a wall that the Mexicans are going to piss on. It'll be a wonderful urinal. They ought to call it like the Great Urinal, because that's what it will be. People will just urinate on it. Yeah, well, I'm sorry. I'm not going to watch something that you haven't explained. So, yeah, you have to give me a little bit more information about what this crap is. I mean, what is it? I can't tell what sonal luminous science is. Luminous science. Well, okay, then don't waste my time. I don't really have any time for whatever it is, fairy tales and unicorn theories. Got better things to do than debunk flat earthers. Well, like I said, I'm really not looking for bizarre. I'm really just not. My agenda is different. I'm not here to just debunk every kook in the universe. I'm here to defend my kook category theory as being actual truth. So bizarre that if you don't understand how to do it yourself, that it could be fake. LOL. Again, what does that mean? Oh, a MiG tower. Yes, Trump needs to send the nigger monkeys back to Africa the way God wants it. Thank you. MGTOW. MGTOW. Sounds like some kind of fucking venereal disease. Which I guess it is. Yeah. No, hey, broken thing, come here. You're not allowed to break right in front of me and in the middle of a room. Okay, I'll fix that. That's what I do. I fix things constantly, all day long. I just fix, 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 fix. And then I take a nap. Yes, the He-Man Woman Haters Club. Really, I mean, I wish Bill Cosby, the cunt, didn't buy the Little Rascals because, yeah, I mean, you could just spend hours editing Little Rascal episodes of the the He-Man Woman Hater Club, and you could just have a field day because that's all they are, little children. Oh, I'm scared. The girl's got cooties. Is the emission of short bursts of light from imploding bubbles in a liquid when excited by sound. Well, that's a perfectly rational thing that happens if you obviously remove something very very fast, you plasmize the structure. So there's actually a little shrimp, tiger shrimp, I think it's called, or something. What the hell? It's called something like that. And actually moves its claw so fucking fast that it vaporizes. It doesn't even vaporize, it plasmizes, okay, the atoms in the water. And it's explosive. I mean, it's literally explosive and, creates a sonic wave. And this is how the whole effect is that it creates a sonic wave that actually fractures the thing it's next to. It doesn't even have to like physically hit it. It's just the pressure wave it creates actually crushes like the eyeballs of its enemy. you know, it's really kind of interesting. So there's nothing. I don't think there's anything about that you wouldn't be able to say that's just physics. I don't think you need all these funky words to describe it. I guess I don't like these words at all. Cymatrix. I don't. I don't. I wish they would. Yeah, I wish they would not use these words because, frankly, I don't like these words at all. Sonomoluliensis. Yeah, they don't need to do all that shit. Anyway, it's not terribly. It's interesting, but yeah, it's not really relevant to my agenda. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. No, we're not going to talk about money. It doesn't move anyway. Money sits in bank accounts and acquires interest. Doesn't really go anywhere. Just digits in a computer. I own them, you own them, that's all. And they just make them out of IOUs. So I borrow, money is made. You need to. That's how you will get your work sponsored and cross-examined by your peers. You need to. I don't know what that means, so whatever. Whatever. Like I said, I'm really not finding your contribution fascinating. Yes, clearly, if I was a millionaire, I could get heard, but I'm not a millionaire, and I'm really a little bit too busy to figure out how to become a millionaire. And frankly, I already know how to become a millionaire, and I'm not willing to be a scumbag, so I won't be a millionaire. So I'm just saying, just fuck you. I mean, unless you're independently wealthy and you got your money through some sort of honest industry, shut up. Yeah, fuck you. Well, I mean, interest wouldn't create inflation if the interest was only a compensation for the risks. So if it was only the failures you were paying for, like you were getting your interest as compensation for the amount of degrade that might take place, like inflation, in the sense that the money is devalued by the amount of the money lost through people's failures. But obviously, in a system like that, inflation is going to be very low, and obviously, you won't need much interest to compensate, to maintain your the value of your surplus. But yes, that's the whole argument, right? Isn't the whole argument is that you're entitled to keep surplus. If I have a wheat silo, I'm entitled, and I have a wheat silo this year full of wheat, I'm entitled to have a wheat silo full of wheat next year. I'm not really entitled to have two wheat silos because I have a wheat silo. Wheat silos don't reproduce. Why am I entitled just because I have it to make money off of it? I mean, it's like I said, that's the exploitation. Well, and I know, well, we know Vic Mackey doesn't have any kind of character. So, like I said, stated, there's nobody's rich who isn't a scumbag. It's just a fact. You have to exploit somebody to make money. You either exploit the customer or you exploit your workers. But there's no other way for it to happen unless you invent the Rubik's Cube or something. I mean, very few people who have made much money because they truly invented something brilliant or made some kind of brilliant contribution. Again, Bill Gates didn't write Windows. Bill Gates sold a DOS operating system he bought from another guy. He rented it to IBM. So Bill Gates' huge, brilliant contribution to mankind was snookering IBM into a rental agreement. IBM was too stupid to fucking know it should buy the software. It shouldn't rent software. Renting software is a bad idea, and IBM couldn't figure that out. Well, anyway, look, you guys are, I really don't want to be dragged into this alternative conversation, so I guess I'll leave. Fuck you. Go talk this shit in an appropriate location. It's not the Inmendum channel or any related political channel or even economic science channel. It's a physics channel. DraftScience, like chemistry and physics, not the science of the economy. We don't do that here. Even if it was my fault, even if I started it, doesn't matter. I'm finishing it. Stop it. No, it doesn't matter. I'm leaving. So anyway, good night and good luck and so forth and whatnot.